This is the One Girl Revolution podcast, a podcast that highlights the stories of world-changing women and girls across the country. We hope that these stories inspire you, but even more so, we hope that these stories help you to see your own value, your purpose, and your power to change the world through your life. Every woman and girl is a One Girl Revolution. Welcome to the One Girl Revolution podcast, a show that highlights the stories of everyday women and girls who are changing the world through their lives. I'm your host, Kate Milligan, and wow, what a whirlwind of a week it has been. One Girl Revolution was just featured on the Kelly Clarkson Show, and we are so grateful for the opportunity to share these incredible stories and these incredible women and girls with an even bigger audience. If you're new here, we hope you'll stay, and we hope that you'll join the revolution and be a part of the change that you want to see in the world. On this new episode of the One Girl Revolution podcast, we have an inspiring conversation with Laverne Delgado, the founder of Freedom and Fashion. Laverne is a powerhouse advocate, mentor, and creative force who founded Freedom and Fashion, an organization that uses fashion and the arts to empower survivors of trafficking, homelessness, and other injustices. With a background in fashion and a heart for justice, Laverne saw an opportunity to merge creativity with purpose, giving individuals a space to heal, express themselves, and build a new future. Through Freedom and Fashion, Laverne and her team provide mentorship, education, and a hands-on experience in fashion, design, and creative arts, helping survivors rediscover their worth and potential. Laverne's work has impacted countless lives, showing the world that fashion is more than just clothing. It's a tool for transformation and empowerment. In this episode, Laverne shares her personal journey, the inspiration behind Freedom and Fashion, and the incredible stories of resilience she has witnessed and experienced through her work. Laverne also talks about the power of creativity and healing, the importance of using our talents to make a difference in the lives of others, and how we can all use our unique gifts to support those in need. There's a really powerful part of our conversation where Laverne talks about how women are creators. We were created to always be creators. We're always creating through our bodies, through our lives, through our souls, and this is a part of the conversation that has just stuck with me since our conversation. And so I know that you are going to be so inspired and moved by her talking about how every single woman and girl is a creator. We were created to create. This conversation is one that will leave you feeling inspired, challenged, and motivated to take action, whether it's supporting organizations like Freedom and Fashion, using your creativity to uplift others, or simply by being a voice for change in your community. There is something that we can all do to make a difference. We can all make a difference every single moment of every single day. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Laverne. Laverne, welcome to the One Girl Revolution podcast.
Hello, thanks for having me.
I am so excited to have you on to talk about your incredible life journey and all about the great work that you're doing with Freedom and Fashion. And I know you do so many different things, but we obviously want to talk about the great work that you're doing with Freedom and Fashion. But before we get into that, I always love to hear the evolution story. I know that, we are fascinating women. I believe that every single woman is full of many facets. And so our stories are full of many chapters and facets. So I would love to rewind and hear a little bit about your own life, your own journey, who you are, where you're from, and just a little bit about your life before Freedom and Fashion.
Okay, for sure. I can share a little bit about I guess my roots. I come from New Mexico originally. I have just the best ancestry, I think, when it comes to, the land of enchantment. Is New Mexico's beautiful, beautiful land, beautiful heritage, and that's where I was born. And I am Spanish, Indigenous, and a little bit of German. And I have been in LA for the last since right out of high school. So I'll leave that there. And it's been a beautiful and interesting ride. I love the city. I love California has to offer. The land is beautiful. Um, the people, it really does bring forth the depths of creativity and ideation. And it's been so fun to create in this city with people that I respect and love. And I am one of three. I have brothers, so but I'm the only one here in California. So I've been kind of solo dolo out here for a long time. Uh, and yeah, I've led this nonprofit for 12 years now. I got the notification on LinkedIn, and that was really eye-opening. And yeah, it's I have a cat named Gracie. I have two dogs named Coco and Albert, but we call him Gordo, and lots of plants. So
Well, I know that you have, yeah, such a full life and you are such a beacon of light in LA. And I know that right now you're going through such a difficult time with all of the fires. And I think something for me being, I'm in Detroit and I only am seeing what I'm seeing online and in the news, but it's been really incredible to see so many people like you who are running these incredible nonprofits and stepping in and supporting one another and working together. But to me, it's actually just a reflection of what is always going on in LA. I know, and I know that you've experienced that, like organizations working together and supporting one another. And a lot of people that don't live in LA or aren't familiar with LA, they kind of see all the glam and, know about like all the actors and all the movies. And it's like, no, there's so much incredible advocacy and spreading awareness about different issues and just supporting people. It's been really incredible for me to experience that going out to LA for different stories with One Girl Revolution, but you're actually living that.
yeah, it's the epicenter of influence and creativity, and seeing it in its many colors over, the years. And yeah, now with the wildfires, I just continue to get to know her. And it's an honor to be here. It's a very sought after city for many around the world, and I get to call it home. So I have a deep respect not only for what it brings, but the life and the native life that's here from, the Angelinos that have generations and generations and generations in, and um, that I know very well. So it's more than Hollywood. It's more than just, a place of cultivation. There's a lot of origin stories here that, we see the Super Bowl, like Kendrick Lamar getting to that level just by really paying homage to the cities that and within the city that he loves. And so there's a whole lot to LA. And it's a very resilient, rich place.
Well, one origin story that I would love to hear is how freedom in fashion came to be. I know that you mentioned that you just celebrated your 12th anniversary. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Amazing. And
yeah.
so, how did you get the idea for freedom in fashion? Or was there a spark moment where you were like, I need to do something. This is what the world needs, and I'm going to step forward and bring it to fruition?
I Freedom in Fashion started in 2008, and it was an advocacy platform for anti-human trafficking during a time when it wasn't on movies. There was no Taken, there was no big motion pictures or movements about the injustice. So it was a pioneer in it that way. He used fashion to help lift the voices of survivors, to help lift up ethical and fair trade brands that support survivors and sustainability. And then I came on to help create our direct impact programming. So programs that directly serve in-person survivors of trafficking. And then we expanded to survivors of domestic violence. And now we serve all of the above and, their families. So lots of youth. We have lots of youth programming, and our expressions of women empowerment you know, usually lie within three pillars of impact, and that's resources, advocacy, and education. So we get a lot of resources out to people. We're teaching using the mediums of fashion and beauty about identity, self-expression, and language. Fashion is a universal language. Since the beginning of man, it's been used to communicate tribe, gender, status. So it's something that helps us. Um, it is a beautiful bridge that is proven to be very effective when connecting with survivors. A lot of the times their throats are not open. It's hard for them to express themselves with words or vocabulary. So fashion has been a non-verbal language that gives us a lot of access and them a lot of connection to themselves. So that's how we utilize education, and then advocacy, doing stuff like this, talking about the survivors, their stories, what we're doing, and trying to raise awareness on how we all can help.
Two things that you said there about fashion that I hadn't really thought about is one, like the expression, right? That you can speak through the things that you're wearing, but also tribe, and thinking about your native heritage. And I know that that's something that is so important, where it's like the things that you wear describes who your family is, what tribe you're a part of. And I think about all of us, right? That's kind of like a cool way to think about fashion, that of course we're able to speak to the world and talk about who we are. And that's why it's so important for us to even treat yourself from time to time and like buy the fashion that like actually expresses who you are and is your voice to the world. And then also like thinking about the expression that is of who you are as a person, where you came from, your roots, your heritage. Like that's such a cool way to think about fashion that I never really thought about.
Yeah, yeah, it's very significant, and that's not new to, us. It's very, very significant, and it means something, whether you want it to or not.
Mm.
So it's just what it is, and it is language at the end of the day. I think a lot of people think of fashion as expression or creativity, and it's all those things, but it goes so much deeper. It is a method of communication, and it grants access.
So, for people that are listening, I know you kind of went through the three pillars of the work that you're doing, but for people that are listening, what is freedom in fashion now? I know that it's evolved and grown and you're continuing to grow and evolve, but what is it now? And talk about the great work that you do.
Freedom in Fashion, yeah, it's a very niche nonprofit that uses fashion, beauty, and other modalities to connect and help survivors of trafficking and injustice heal themselves, So, um, we've partnered with amazing brands and influencers and entrepreneurs that utilize their access, their creativity and brands to help, whether that's, you know, providing amazing hygiene and necessary resources to survivors when they're just getting on their feet, or if it means giving, this last December, we provided 13,000 kids toys. Uh, because, you ask these women oftentimes, like, what is the biggest support we could be for you? And that is to help their kids, to help their kids have as normal of a childhood as possible. So that's what we just did. And then, but yeah, so we're ever evolving, and, even last month with the fires, and we just utilized our reach and our access and our partnerships to provide what's needed. We understand that we are niche and we are very focused on our mission and how we, show up in the game. But with that, we are also very adaptable, and we want to do what helps. So we did a few fundraisers for a few families to help provide resources, dollars, and gift cards. So that's not necessarily in our realm of impact, but it is what was needed. And we, have been in Pasadena for the last 10 years. So our neighborhood was on fire and our families were displaced. So we did what was needed.
I know that there are a lot of different ways that you get connected to the people that you're serving. Obviously, the families that you were connected with regards to the fires is kind of a different situation. It's a need that you were able to step in and help. But for some of your students and some of the people that you get connected with, how do you get connected with them? And I know it's a lot of different ways. And how do you like stay in touch with them and continue to work with them?
I think, yeah, at this point, it comes from whether it be social media, people reaching out, hey, I know somebody, they just are trying to escape a violent marriage, but we've served uh, most every nonprofit or shelter here that serves women and families, so we are a resource center for them oftentimes, the CAST LA, they're the Coalition to Abolish Sex Trafficking. We support their survivors, whether they're graduating their program or they need certain resources. We are a support to them. The Alexandria House, who's great with domestic violence survivors, we support their families, and so on and so forth. So we've been around for a while. We have our strategic partnerships and alliances with other organizations, but we also, uh, support people who aren't connected to agencies and they're having a hard time.
Yeah, so people can just easily get in touch with you even through social media. And that's what I love so much. A lot of times we talk, that's what I love so much about social media. I think a lot of times social media gets like a negative connotation, or people are like, oh, yeah, that's the reason for so many problems in our world, which we can definitely, talk about that. But on the flip side, I see so much positivity because it's so easy for all of us to be connected. We're more connected than ever. And even organizations like ours, like being able to connect through social media and support one another. And even I feel like every single day I'm seeing somebody post something about whether it's a family in need or an individual in need, or with the fires going on, like, hey, so and so needs this, or we have a group here or a community here that needs this. And people are able to step up and support one another. GoFundMe's, right? Every single day. Sadly, I feel like I see those, but it's become this outlet. And I love so much about the work that you're doing where you are just there. If people need something, they can reach out, or even just you're a great connecting force. And I love that you're collaborating with other organizations, because a lot of times, and I feel like especially unfortunately with women, individuals, and with groups, there can be this like competitive nature, but you're just like, hey, we'll work with whoever. We're just here to serve. We want to support one another. And that's such a beautiful example to all of us.
Yeah, it's so interesting, right? How that's even so present in like the nonprofit sector where we all need to help each other. And I think that's a little bit as to, I think it's starting to change, but it's also like the statistics aren't changing all that much. So, um, more collaboration, less competitiveness, but that's human nature, right? That's life. And if so, of course it exists in this sector. But as far as freedom in fashion goes, yeah, I've had leaders of really big organizations amazed at just how when we show up, we're just here there to serve and we're not asking for things back, and we're not, looking for I scratch your back, you scratch mine. We're just really connected. We're a tiny but mighty org, and we're that way for a reason. It's not to say that growth isn't a goal, but not at the expense of the people that we serve. It's really easy to create a different model and hit numbers to get a certain grant, and that's one way of doing it. But we've just chosen to really steward the families that we have. We've been serving some of the same families for a decade and seeing their kids through high school and ensuring that they can graduate and make it and actually turn a new leaf and break the cycle of violence in their homes, And that takes a village and many, many years. And I have my own survivor story, so I understand what's actually needed. And it's like many of us, we have, amazing strength in our families and resilience that are overcomers of horrific things. And how do those cycles of violence change? And it's not because serving thousands upon thousands is the goal. It's like, how do you serve the few very well? And that's what we're focused on. And that's a little bit as to why we're a tiny but mighty org.
Every day, women and girls are changing the world, lifting up their communities, and making a difference. At One Girl Revolution, we are dedicated to highlighting the stories of world changing women and girls to inspire the world. But we can't do it alone. This year, we're celebrating 6 years of telling these world changing stories, and we need your help to keep it going. Become a monthly donor by giving just $6 a month in honor of our anniversary. Every dollar, every single dollar fuels our mission, keeping the podcast going, expanding our reach, and making sure these voices and these stories are heard far and wide. If you believe in the power of women's voices and their stories, if you want to be a part of the revolution, donate today. Go to onegirlrevolution.com/donate and be a part of the revolution. I think that all of us have a story, right? Not necessarily a survivor story in the way that we think, but I love that. I love that Destiny's Child anthem, I'm a survivor. And every time I hear that song, I feel like it just sort of empowers something in me to like step up and be the person that I was created for. And I think that all of us have different things that we experience in life. You know, maybe it's not survivor in the way that we think, right? Maybe it's not a survivor of human trafficking necessarily or domestic violence, but we all are survivors of something, and we have the power to really transform how that plays out in our lives, whether we carry it and just it becomes a burden for our whole lives, or we can take it like you did, where you're like, hey, I'm going to use my own story and I'm going to use my own voice to help other people. And it's just incredible what you've done. And I think we all have that power within us.
For sure, yeah. I mean, the numbers don't lie. I mean, you can throw a rock and you're probably gonna it's gonna land on the porch of somebody that's overcoming something really major. And it just doesn't know, you know, any true confines. I've served some women who are really financially stable and well off, but they're escaping some of the most, you know, tumultuous and violent of relationships, you know, so and vice versa too. Like people who economically are really struggling and they have struggles in and outside of their home, you know, so this has just been a journey of self-healing, to be honest. I don't think I'm anybody to save anybody. I'm just somebody to help create containers and opportunities to help people save themselves, you know. I don't think any of us can really do that for anyone other than ourselves. So it's been a beautiful journey of me healing alongside of the women and the families that we serve, and kind of keeping that approach that I'm not super different than you. I'm just in a different expression of life right now. And we may look different in certain ways, but I'm no one to save you and no one can save me. And I'm just going to help provide the help and the resources that I can. And you have full agency to do with it what you will, you know, and hope keeping people empowered through their agency and connection to their power of choosing a different route, choosing a different life for themselves, has been the key.
We all have moments in life where we just need someone to stand with us. And I think about the movie Dumbo, and I quote it from time to time on this podcast. And it's like, Dumbo always could fly, right? He didn't need to hold the little feather, but he thought he needed it. And sometimes that's all of us in life. We just need someone who believes in us. And we have that power. We have that courage within us, but we just need someone. And that's what I feel like freedom in fashion is. And that's what I feel like you are to so many, where you're like, hey, you can do it. I'm going to like be here if you need me. I am walking alongside you. I'm your family, you know, building community and family around people. That is so powerful. The reality is all of these people can do it on their own, but we all sometimes just need someone to stand with us, and that's what you're doing.
Yeah, tribe is really important. We humans need each other, you know, differently, but we all do need each other and we need our tribe. So we offer, and anybody that's even connected to me personally, and it ripples obviously into the organization, but you will understand your power, you know, and understand that, you know, there's stages to healing and acknowledging that, you know, we were victimized is important. And then having the resilience to call ourselves survivors is also important. The next stage that is often hardly ever talked about is getting from a survivor to a creator. Okay, I I'm creating my life at all times. And that is true empowerment. You know, that is, and that's very confronting because to know that we co-create, and this doesn't apply to the innocents and the children and the people who are truly, enslaved and being victimized, uh, doesn't apply to that. But for most cases, there is a sense of choice that goes into it. And that's really taboo to talk about. But it's a confrontation I had to have with myself. So it's coming straight from the horse's mouth that though it's not, um, you know, conventional and some may not think it's, empowering, it is truly the only way. Because to acknowledge ourselves as powerful is to understand our creation energy in every moment. And that's what we're interested in. That's what I'm interested in being. I don't want to be a victim or a survivor for the rest of my life. It's it's just a tie to my trauma I'm not looking to have. I want to be a powerful creator and somebody that has the power of choice and agency at all times. And it's that extra stage that isn't really spoken of. So
Yeah.
there, I talked about it, everybody.
No, I think it's so important. And, we hear this phrase female empowerment that's thrown around all the time, but it's like, well, what does that actually mean? And from my perspective, I feel like a lot of times it's very surface level and it's like, no, we need to dig in. And I love that you brought up the name creator, right? We are creators. And I think through our creativity, whatever that is, each and every one of us is as unique as our fingerprint. And if we really believed that, how differently we would live our lives, right? Like, and we have the power to create in so many different ways. Some people, their creativity is writing. Sometimes it's just design or even thinking of ideas, right? Maybe you don't even have the artistic ability to bring something to life, but you can talk about it. Or, I think about like writing, different writing exercises that I'll do with different groups of women. And it's like, we all have so much creativity within us and how differently the world would look if we just allowed our hearts and our lives to break open and be who we truly were created to be. And a lot of times these things in our lives that turn us into survivors, or turn us into victims, they hold us back from that creator level. And so I love that you just described it that way.
Yeah, it has to happen. I mean, especially women, right? And it's the same thing for men, but we hold the womb. We are creators by being. We are creating at all times, what unconscious or consciously. So it's how do we get to be as conscious as possible in the worlds we're creating within and out of ourselves. And we are extremely powerful. We are just a charge of energy by existence. That untamed, uncultivated, and unaware of is dangerous to even ourselves, which is why the cycles of violence continue for women so often. It is that lack of education and so acknowledgement that we are creating at all times, and that is the power we have. That is the magic of being woman, you
Mm.
know? So to understand the existence and the charge of the feminine is to acknowledge that I'm creating at all time. How do I do that as consciously and in alignment with nature as I can possibly do it?
I want to go back to freedom and fashion for a second. I know that there are so many stories of people and families that you've worked with through the years, but is there maybe a story or two that you could share that you feel like really illustrates the power of the work that you're doing? And again, I know that there are so many different facets to the work that you're doing and so many different examples that you could give, but when you just like kind of think back, is there a snapshot story or two that you feel like really illustrates the power of your work?
Yeah, there's two girls that we've been with for many, many years. One's name is Cynthia and the other is Daisy. And we've known them since they were, freshmen in high school. And now one's in the Marines and the other is working amazing jobs, and we've been able to connect her with great PR companies, and she's at all these cool events I wish I can get into. I'm like, how can I be your plus one now? She's just really stepped into that kind of woman entrepreneur. She's dreaming different dreams for herself, but when they both have been at a very young age in violent relationships. One, was kidnapped, and we, you know, luckily, got a hold of her, and she's okay. But yeah, they're now safe, and they're creating their life, and the story is not, now they're this survivor and they're a success. As you know, just being a human, especially being a woman, that new challenges arise all the time, and they're yet to, they're still pretty young. They're in their early 20s now, and um, they're not in violent relationships. And also they get to live life in a different stage as an independent person, and that brings up new challenges. So uh, we're still on the ride together. And I think that's the success story, is being able to say that through many years, a decade for some, we're still together, and we're all in a more healthy place than we were 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's just incredible that you're able to walk with these people. And I'm sure some people that you're working with, it's kind of like, oh, they just need one quick little thing. But a lot of people, and it's like all of us, we need our tribe. Like you said before, we need people that are just going to be there when we need them and to walk alongside one another. And so many people in this world, unfortunately, don't have the family support like we used to see, where it was like generations and generations would live around each other and support one another. And we just don't have that anymore. And so it's so important for us as women to build our own tribes and to seek out other women that want and need that and want to be that for us, because we need that in this world.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that is a true, I guess, metric of success for me as a person, and is kind of the test of time. It's not actually like an achievement or a thing. It's like, are we still in the boat together? Are we still here together, conscious and creating in a loving way, to the best of our ability? I mean, what bigger accomplishment is than that, is to be able to be in community with someone, and these people we serve for year after year after year, after a pandemic and now wildfires and all the things that happen in between, to say that, wow, we're still together. That's just been the sixth metric for me. Obviously, there's other like economic well-being and education and things that we pay attention to. It's not just like, oh, we're together, so that's like the only thing, but um, staying together is really hard. Okay. So the fact that we could do that and weather storms together, that's just a huge testament to the Freedom and Fashion team and the strength and vulnerability of the people we serve.
Your story matters, but creating content that actually tells your story, builds your brand, or gets you booked, that can feel overwhelming. But that's where producer Rachel comes in. Producer Rachel and her team make it effortless, turning just one 30-minute video call into a month of high-impact content that positions you as the go-to expert. We're talking a YouTube episode, a podcast episode, a blog, a newsletter, reels, stories, infographics, and more. When I had to jet off to New York City for the Kelly Clarkson show, who stepped in to cover for me? Producer Rachel. When the power of her needed coverage, who stepped in? Producer Rachel. When I needed a guest host for the One Girl Revolution podcast and fresh content for social media, you guessed it, my girl, producer Rachel. Entrepreneurs, nonprofits, and brands can also hire producer Rachel to create high impact content that elevates their message and expands their reach. If you are ready to invest in your voice, your brand, and your future, go to sandgmediagroup.com. That's sandgmediagroup.com for more info and to connect with producer Rachel today. Trust me, she will make it happen. For people that are listening, what can they do to support your work and what can they do to get involved?
So social media is kind of, we're in that sweet spot to where that's still a great way for us to connect quickly. We're not super big to where messages are being, lost. So if you need help, connect with us on there. Um, if you want to be involved, connect with us on there. We also have a connect form on our website. You know, Sometimes people use that still, so but social media has been the main thing. So Freedom and Fashion on all platforms, you can find us.
For people that are listening that might think that they need support or they know that they need support and they think that freedom and fashion might be the avenue for them to get the support that they need, what types of, I guess, obviously people in abusive situations, is it just people in California? Are you working with people across the country or just kind of share with me a little bit about the types of people that you might be open to working with?
For anybody that needs support, and especially if they are like truly in need, they're usually looking for people in their area. So we do serve a lot of Los Angeles, SoCal people, but we have different programs that we've and activations that we are part of in New York, and so we help survivors out there. It's just a question of, hey, are you serving in my area? Um, and if it's the answer is no, we're never like, no, it's no, but here's who you could reach out to in your area. We provide, um, you know, information and help in getting people connected to the more easily accessible agencies that may be in their area. But if you're in Los Angeles, obviously we're here. So it takes a village, usually from the rescue to rehabilitation stage, depending on who you ask, there's, 10 to 12 stages from rescue to rehabilitation. And usually there's a nonprofit for, 1 to 3. Some can do all, like if you're like a United Way or something major like that. But, we really thrive in the last few stages, after the survivors have stabilized their nervous system and had their immediate needs met, so food, water, shelter, clothing, and they can intake new information. We really thrive there, but we also can help connect, and like I said, we provide resources too. So, if a woman or a person is, just leaving their home and they're fleeing and they need hygiene, they need clothes, we're good for that too. But we're not the ones kicking the doors down. We're not the ones, giving legal advice. Though I can help and I have a lot of experience, we would connect you to the people that are exist in those roles. But it takes a village, and we know where we thrive, and it's usually in the later stages when they're trying to re-implement themselves into society and stabilize in that way.
Yeah, well, it's so critical what you're doing. And I just can't stop thinking about you talking about victim, survivor, creator. And I, like the rest of my life, I'm going to carry that with me and just thinking about how women are always creating and just how empowering that mindset is for all of us. And if we really embraced that, it's not just a mindset, it's what we're living every single day. And you are such an example of that, and freedom and fashion is such an example of that. And I can't wait to continue to follow everything that you're doing and support. And hopefully at some point we can collaborate, One Girl Revolution and freedom and fashion in one way or another. But I have to ask you, Laverne, because I'm so curious, and I know you have your own, so many different, you have your own survivor story as you shared before, and so many different aspects of your life might be this reason, but I'm so curious to know if you could get to the very root of why you do what you do every single day. I know that freedom and fashion, there are some days that you have great successes and you see different women that are just thriving that you're working alongside and you're like, oh yeah, get it, girl. And you have these great days. But then I know you also have days where you face heartbreak after heartbreak or difficulty after difficulty. You apply for a grant and you think you're going to get it, or you're talking to someone and you think they're going to get out of an abusive situation and they don't. What would you say that root is? If you could get to the very root of why you do what you do, the driving force of what you do every single day, especially on those hard days, what would you say that root is?
Connection to nature, you know, it's all part of nature. The despair, the anger, the destruction, the fires, the everything's it's all a part of nature. Violence, it's part of nature. And you know, when I am met with despair, discouragement, um, I obviously feel it, and it's not the easiest thing to do all the time, but usually I end up questioning and leaning in as to what does this have to teach me, you know? What expression of nature am I experiencing through this situation? You know, for some that make me angry, it's the volcano, it's the wildfire, and what comes from that? Well, usually a rebirth, you know, usually there's something being pruned or, you know, killed off, if you will, so new things can grow. So learning, you know, our the evolutionary process of Earth and knowing that I'm connected to her and paralleling that um, has helped me accept and find beauty in all of the expressions that I am a part of and see through the women. And yeah, when we help them get out and then they go back, and it's like, okay, well, there's the cycle's not done. It's not what I want for them. It's not what I wanted for myself when I was in it, but the cycle wasn't done. So what is this teaching us? And staying grounded and connected to the bigger picture that obviously then it has more to teach them, you know, and never again, not wanting that for them, but it's what they chose, you know. If they find themselves in that situation again, the same way for me, it's what I chose. And keeping that agency and power within the person is crucial at all times. But nature is my purpose, I suppose. And I think this organization and this opportunity to be a part of such a movement has brought me so much deeper in connection with the ultimate feminine, which is Mother Nature. And for that, I'm incredibly, incredibly grateful for all of it, all the things, all of it. And it's been a lot. So it's nice
Like,
to see.
yeah, but life is full of so many chapters, and I love that you know we're always learning, we're always growing, and things that happen, it's what we choose, and if we don't choose something different, we still need to learn that lesson. Someone said that to me the other day, and it was like, oh yeah, like if you keep choosing the same thing, you obviously haven't learned the lesson yet, whatever life is trying to teach you. And so it's your own journey, your own path. And, you know, you have to learn the lessons throughout life in order to change and choose something different. So I think that's a powerful lesson. I'm so curious about like what is to come for freedom and fashion. I know that you've grown and evolved so much through the years, but in your dream of dream worlds, where do you hope that you go from here? I know there's so much work to be done, and I can't wait to see where you go from here, but what can you share about that?
Well, we are transitioning ourselves, you know, as you know, like within the political climate and here in LA, the fires and things are changing very rapidly. Um, and we need to adapt as well. So, uh, I'm excited to share like Freedom Fashion will be taking on a new life here soon. And it'll be one that is it makes it even more accessible for us to meet the actual needs, which is women um, cultivating, accepting, and cultivating their rage. You know, there's a lot of anger within the world right now, especially for women, and that's a very charged energy. It's very powerful, and you know, in so many organizations and institutions, are you know, we women are told to forgive and just rise above and be the bigger person and to, you know, And I don't, no, no. That is, there's so much energy being cultivated through our feminine rage. And when we learn to alchemize that and utilize it in strategic ways, uh, we will see beautiful rebirth happening. But it's nothing to forgive. It's nothing to let go. It's nothing to rise above. It is here, it is present, and it's to be cultivated and used. And that is where freedom in fashion is headed. So
Mm,
I'll be excited to give you those updates once, um, we can share them. But
yeah.
we'll
Well,
be
as people,
harnessing this for sure.
go ahead. What did you say?
I said we will be harnessing the energy for sure.
That's amazing. Well, as people know who listen to this podcast, we don't just have you on the podcast once. We stay in touch with you, and I can't wait to continue to follow everything that you're doing and continue the conversation. And we'll have to have you back on as things continue to evolve for you. And we will continue to follow. I will put your website and your social media links in the show notes so people can easily follow everything that you're doing and get in touch with you and support your work. So, it's so exciting to have you on. Laverne, you are a one girl revolution, and that's why I wanted to have you on this podcast. And I know you also work alongside so many one girl revolutions. And I truly believe that every single woman and girl is a one girl revolution. But I'm so curious to know, who is a one girl revolution in your life? Who is a woman or girl that inspires you?
Man, yeah, that's a hard. I mean, there's so many. There's so many. It's really hard for me to find a woman that I don't see as powerful, to be honest, even ones that don't like me. I'm like, it's just the feminine is just so special. In this season, I'm taking uh uh a huge note to my grandmother and my mother. Um, I've for the last decade, they've helped me on with my mission and helped me. But served thousands upon thousands of women, and the closer I get to nature and heal, the closer it leads me to them. And I think that, um, yeah, I have so much to learn about them still. So. But the fact that I am even here talking to you about everything that some people find inspiring, is it, it it has to do a lot with the feminines in my own life. So I would say that they're pretty revolutionary. Yeah.
It's so important for all of us to look at our own lives. And that's why I always love to ask that question. I know it's hard to narrow it down to one, but we all are surrounded by one girl revolutions, women who have gone before us, but also women who are walking around us, next to us, behind us, the up and coming generations. We can learn so much from one another. And so it's so important for all of us to just open our eyes and see how women, I loved even what you said about how, even some women that don't like you like learn, you see it, you see power in them and you're inspired by them. And I think that's so important for us to all see women as that, what can we learn from them?
Yeah. Yeah. It's all power. Uh,
All
Hopefully we
power.
all can work together.
Yeah.
We would really do something special if we could do that. But life's a journey and we're doing it right now. So
We're doing it right now, girl. And this is why conversations like this are so critical, where it's like, two women just supporting one another and having a conversation. And that just has a ripple effect, right? You never know who's going to hear this and they're going to jump on board and be like, I want to be a part of freedom and fashion. And so I'm so grateful to have you on. I'm so grateful to know you and just be connected with you now. But before I let you go, I always end this podcast on one question that I'd like to ask you. If you could leave women and girls around the world with one message, what would it be?
well, thank you for your compliments, and I mirror that back to you. It's been a pleasure to be with you, and I'm very grateful for the access you're creating for other women and me today. So I just want to acknowledge that, and the thing I would leave is women with is to love all of your parts, all of your parts. There's nothing that you need to change per se. You know, I think like we hold a lot of shame. Patriarchy does that. You know, there's our anger, our sadness, our emotions, all these things have been demonized. But um, if you can put your feet in the dirt and just breathe, you'd be surprised as to what you could do. Like it is truly that simple. I know it's not easy for some, but nature is the best teacher. You know, there's people like us that can help to provide insights and sure teach, but nature is the true guide. So as long as you can reconnect with nature in the ways that you are able to, um, you'll find your way.
I totally believe that. And I think about even in my own life, and I know you have experiences like this when you're having a really bad day or just like a stressful day, right? You're on back-to-back calls or you're running from one thing to another. And if you just take a moment and you go outside for 5 minutes and just walk around in the grass in your bare feet or walk around the block and just breathe in that fresh air, especially I'm thinking about in Detroit, we have this beautiful snowfall right now and it's like the beautiful winter air. And I know that, you know, being in California, sometimes you have these moments where it's like that you can go out, drive out to the beach and just walk and like breathe that ocean air. How much that can just change our perspective on things and help us reconnect with nature, like you said. But I think that that helps us reconnect with us and who we were created to be.
Yeah, and just so for the ones, because I know so many may have rolled their eyes right now, like, oh, you know, because it's if it were that simple, right? But it is, and um, you are you are an expression of earth and nature. So roll the eyes, get mad at it, but the it doesn't change the fact. So even if you can't go out, you know, if you have a plant, just and trust it. Believe in the magic. If you don't believe in the magic, then, well, continue to work by the sweat of your brow and be taken advantage of and be tired and underappreciated in your boardrooms and your meetings, and that'll be fine. But there's also nature. And if you want a new way, just try it.
Just try it. It's like Nike, just do it, but just try it. But I'm so grateful to know you, Laverne. Thank you so much for being on the One Girl Revolution podcast. And thank you for all the incredible work that you do with freedom and fashion.
Likewise, thank you for all the work you do. It's been a pleasure. We'll talk again soon.
For more from One Girl Revolution, to listen to all of our podcast episodes, watch our Emmy-nominated documentary series, follow us on social media, donate to our nonprofit organization, and more, please visit onegirlrevolution.com. That's the number onegirlrevolution.com.